podcast, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Michelle. Great to be here.
So, can you share your background and how you got into naturopathic medicine?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. I actually grew up with naturopathic medicine as my family's primary health care. And I
Oh, that's
was,
great.
yeah, thank you. And I was really, well, that's thanks to my mom for
Yeah.
choosing that for us. And I was a really sensitive child, and I just found, by the time I was around 15, I said to myself, oh my gosh, Joan helps me so much. I just don't know where I'd be without her, and I'd really like to help people the way she helps me. And so that was my career, and I knew from a pretty young age that that's what I wanted to do. And then when I arrived in naturopathic medical school, I found that I was already passionate about children's health, and that's actually how I got into the fertility focus as well, because looking at children's health, we always look for the root cause of the conditions that they were dealing with. And so if we go back to last year, if we go back to the postpartum period, if we go back to the birth, if we go back to the pregnancy, and then even preconception, we find a lot of possible causes for what children are facing today. And that became so empowering, inspiring, to be able to help people in the preconception season to invest not only in their fertility success, of course, but also the health of their future child. And so that's why I work with the whole arc. And it's been 11 years now as we're chatting today. And I'm just delighted to be continuing in the care of people before they're even conceived.
Yeah, that's actually really an important point that you bring up because, yeah, we could really, literally, the mother can impact her grandchildren. It really
Yes.
makes such a difference. And
Yes.
what they do, what they eat, what the toxins that they're exposed to, I mean,
Yes.
everything matters.
Yes, the stressors that they're exposed to. That's right. And so there, with everything that we can address within our control, I
Hmm.
like to help introduce women and couples to that. Even if they're struggling with fertility, it ends up being, we could reframe that as an opportunity
Hmm.
to have some attention, to focus on those things that are impeding their fertility, are probably corresponding to the same factors that we would love to enhance or optimize or reverse
Yeah.
in favor of their children's future health potential. So that's right, like you mentioned, it's the environment, it's the toxins and the industrial chemicals that have been released into the environment and our air, water, food.
Hmm.
It's the toxic thoughts and emotions and
Right.
limiting beliefs, that are passed down intergenerationally too. When I think about my own history and, being, so half of our own DNA was in our mother's ovary, in her eggs that are kind of like primordial formed eggs when she was a fetus
Hmm.
in our grandmother's womb.
Right. It's crazy.
It's crazy. So to wrap your head around that, it's like, okay, half of your DNA was exposed to everything, not only your mother in her lifetime before you were conceived, but everything your grandmother was exposed to as well, um, during her pregnancy with your mother. So it's just kind of, it blows your mind to think about that, but that's also, I hope, very empowering for people,
Hmm.
because we can start to interrupt, energetically and physically, we can start to interrupt these cycles of
Yeah.
not as optimal health, cycles of, shame or trauma or stress, or, all these pieces of the puzzle. And there is so much, that I love to share with people that they can influence and control, and they can kind of make, the inner and external environments around them and within them so much more healthy than we've ever been led to believe.
Yeah. Well, that's the key. I think that that is so empowering because we don't realize like how much we can actually do, like how much control we actually have. And we also don't, a lot of times people get to the point where they're trying to get pregnant. They want it to happen yesterday. And
Yeah.
that's a conversation I have a lot with my patients because it really benefits them and the baby to
Yeah.
give themselves some time to, I call it prepping the soil.
Yeah.
You don't just throw the seeds in and just kind of pray that everything's going to be okay, because you want to really set up a really good chance for a viable pregnancy.
Yes,
Because it's not
absolutely.
just about getting pregnant, it's about having a healthy birth.
That's right. Exactly. It's that you're right. The soil is like setting the stage for the entire trajectory for the success of the pregnancy, the health of the pregnancy environment, the turn, like having a term pregnancy, having a normal birth, being able to recover well, and developing that relationship with your baby when the baby is earthside. These
Mhm.
are such valuable pieces that we forget to think about. You know, it's kind of like when we're ready to get married and everything is about the wedding, and it's so intense and it's so time bound and it's so costly and it's all consumes all your focus, and and then no one's talking about the marriage, which is the most important thing. Like
Right,
what
right,
happens, and the wedding day isn't meant to be the happiest day of your life. That's
right.
just the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Have a really
exactly.
happy chapter and a wonderful chapter. So I think it's like that, um, and I think people can really relate to the idea of the soil in the garden. And we know that we can't just throw amazingly healthy seeds on rocky soil or mineral deprived soil or chemical enriched soil and
Mhm.
expect to have gorgeous plants that we would love to, enjoy or take in, if it's food, take into our bodies too. So it's intuitive, and yet it's not a part of our culture,
Mhm.
at least in North America right now, to consider it in this dimension. So I love that you're sharing this idea with your patients and your audience. And I love that, it's something that's gaining attention as people are starting to come and say, hey, I don't know if I have any fertility issues, but I want to do everything that I can to not have them
Yeah,
and to just be really healthy before we conceive. And I think people are waking up to the
yeah,
value of that.
for sure. And becoming proactive. Now, a very important point, and we talked about this before, is age and
Yeah.
fertility and the stigma that is given to women over 35 or over 40. Uh,
Mhm.
your eggs are old. I mean, this is
Yeah.
what women hear.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel really passionate like you do about the fact that it's just not true a lot of
Yeah.
times. I mean,
Yes.
listen, yes, okay, things obviously with age decline in general, but it doesn't have to.
Yes, I know. It's so cool that you brought this up because I had my baby when I was 40, and I could confidently say I was the healthiest I've ever been before we conceived. I
Hmm.
had, other than the morning sickness, which is considered normal for
Yeah,
a
it's normal.
pregnancy, but I had a beautiful pregnancy. I had an amazing birth. I would do it again. I loved it all. And I feel very confident that my husband and I, because of the preparation that we did,
Hmm.
for the years leading up to conceiving, not knowing if it would ever, I mean, I believe that it would happen. I didn't really struggle emotionally with, are we going to have a baby or not? But I also knew that there were things that I wanted to have in place for both of our health before we conceived. And I felt very comfortable and confident with that, and so grateful because I see this showing up in my baby and
Yeah.
in his robustness and his I just, everyone's gonna think that their baby is amazing, of course. So I'm
And
not
they
gonna go
are.
into details, and they are. Every baby is an absolute miracle. But I just feel like even though we started having we started having him when I was 40, I feel like that was just the right time, and it allowed me to be very confident and comfortable that the preparation was underway to give him his very best foundation and start in life. And when we look at the science, I really want people to understand the physiology of egg development and this dogma of old eggs, that's what I call it, because it is a belief system.
Hmm.
And, when I outline this in my book, when we're born as females, we have our complement of eggs already hanging out in our ovaries, and yet they're not fully matured. They're not coming of age until we start puberty, and even then, it's only one little class or group at a time. And all the other ones, until it's their turn, until they're recruited through hormonal signaling by the body. One class kind of starts every cycle, every menstrual cycle. They complete the lion's share of their chromosomal development and complete their maturity in the last 3 months or so before ovulation takes place, or in the case of IVF, before those eggs would be available to be retrieved in a retrieval cycle. And during that time, they are exquisitely sensitive to their environment,
Hmm.
because they need a lot of energy. They need very specific nutrients. They grow. They take in more iron. Like the eggs literally grow more iron receptors. It's like more doors to let iron in specifically. Like, it
Hmm.
is phenomenal, and we're just scratching the surface of what we understand.
Hmm.
This miraculous cell, the egg, and what it needs and what it benefits from. But there's so many pieces that we know that enhance egg quality,
Hmm.
and that's because we can control so much of the environment. We can optimize our hormone signaling and receptivity to the hormones at the level of the ovaries, so they're
Hmm.
taking in the right signals at the right time. We can optimize our nutrition and the nutrients that the eggs need and will benefit from, and the antioxidants that will protect them from damage
Right.
as the chromosomes are completing their division and reallocation, basically, to become the 50% of genetic complement that the mother will give to their baby.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, all of these things also help to optimize the pregnancy environment, so that when it's time for implantation, it's easy, it's more successful, like higher
Hmm.
chances of having an actual pregnancy take hold, and then a higher chance of a term pregnancy that is also healthy, because like you said, you've arranged the soil to be
Hmm.
the most nutrient rich, calm, less inflamed, you know, um, the most soft place for that baby to land.
Yeah. And what's amazing too is one of the things that I find so cool is how the egg can actually repair the sperm's DNA if it
That
has
is,
the strength and energy to.
which is phenomenal,
It
right?
is.
It's
It's
like miraculous.
unbelievable.
I
Yeah.
know. So, like, forget about feeling like your eggs are too old. Start investing in, reversing the impacts of time and
Yeah.
exposures. It's
Hmm.
much more about exposures than your actual chronological age.
Hmm. So
And
exposure is meaning
yes,
toxins and really
yes,
your environment.
that's right. Toxins and stressors, and nutrient depleted diets,
Hmm.
um, is an exposure, because it makes us more vulnerable, and the eggs more vulnerable to DNA damage or
Hmm.
oxidative stress. It's called, as the mechanism. It's like aging. The
Yeah.
process of aging is at the cellular level, oxidative stress. So yeah, though, all those pieces of the environment, and as well as our thoughts and emotions, and
Hmm.
some people are carrying very negative beliefs and self-talk about
Hmm.
themselves, in general, about themselves as potential mothers, about their fertility, about maybe their relationship, or maybe their finances or their careers. And it can be very scary to be facing, uh, something that should happen just easily. That we're
Yeah.
taught in school. You need to work hard to not get pregnant,
Right.
because
Yeah.
a boy can look at you and you'll get
Right.
pregnant, right? And then so
Yeah.
we have the birth control. We have that mindset that, like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to get pregnant, I have to avoid it. And then we build that into our nervous system for a couple of decades, and then we are racing and running and stressing and striving, and we're succeeding and winning at life, and making all these achievements. And yet when it comes to getting pregnant, if it doesn't just happen, it can be very, very scary to not see pregnancy happening when it should be so easy. And then that adds to the stress and the pressure on our hormonal system, because it starts to steal
Right.
those really nice hormonal precursors over to stress management for the body
Yeah.
instead of fertility for the body.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I had Bruce Lipton on. He talked about, the biology of belief is
Yes,
his
he's
book.
wonderful.
He's incredible.
Yes.
And and I've read his book, but when he was explaining it and I'm just like looking at him, it got me even more. But it was incredible because he talked about the environment of cells, just stem cells, and how they differentiate differently, even though they have the same exact DNA. And he said, what's the petri dish in our body? Our blood. And
Yeah.
what is that carrying? Is it carrying inflammatory markers? Is it inflammatory, inflammatory thoughts? Are they creating more cortisol? Like, how is that impacting the cells?
Yes. There was such an amazing experiment done where um, eggs from a 60-year-old postmenopausal woman were put into a medium, like a petri dish, containing um, basically molecules that would be in a younger ovary.
Oh, wow.
And they took stem cells from her ovary, and those stem cells differentiated into fully normal eggs.
Wow.
It really is about what's called in the literature the microenvironment, and it is totally fueled by the blood.
That's incredible. Send that study to me because
Okay.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it at one conference quite a few years ago now, actually, they were talking about the augment treatment, where mitochondria from a woman's own body are put into her eggs.
Mhm.
And I raised my hand and I asked about about this other research where her ovarian stem cells, what about her stem cells? Instead of necessarily taking mitochondria out of one cell and putting them into her eggs, could we cultivate more stem cells? And I don't think it was very well known, because it was almost like the experts on the panel, I don't think they had heard of the studies before,
Mhm.
and there hasn't been anything that I've seen in the literature come up since. So I don't know why, but it was
Hmm.
kind of dropped. But it expanded my mind when
Yeah.
I read about it, and it wasn't that long ago. So I just want people to know, like, the microenvironment is changeable. It is within your control. When I spoke once with a reproductive endocrinologist in one of the hospitals in Toronto, their fertility research clinics. And we were talking about a patient for a potential referral. She had been dismissed from IVF because of her age. She was 40 at the time that we were working together, and like due to egg quality. And she was considered to be someone who wouldn't respond to IVF and the treatment. So we had done some work together, and we really saw some changes happening in her cycles. So when changes happen in our cycles, we know there's probably changes happening at a more fundamental, deeper level, like in your eggs and your ovaries. And so we talked, and he said, look, um, there's nothing we can do about egg quality, but you can.
Mhm. Oh, so he acknowledged that.
He acknowledges, like,
Yeah.
yes, like, so he's on the medical side, but knowing that I was a naturopathic doctor, and that there's so much research on how to change results here with the newer crops of eggs that are coming on side, so that it's
Mhm.
like the past is going to not matter anymore. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if egg quality showed up poorly in the past.
Right.
We're starting from today to
Yeah.
build healthier eggs for tomorrow.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is just that idea is so empowering to
Yeah.
just acknowledge and realize. And I truly believe that. I even think that if people, I think we could do so much that we have not even scratched the surface. Like people are able to heal themselves. I mean, I really do believe it. I believe in things like what Joe Dispenza went through, where he healed his spine. I mean, who heals their spine just by
Yeah.
thinking about it? And
Yeah.
he did. He
Yeah.
did. He knew he did. He knew he could, and he did it. And I
Mhm.
think that that is like more than half the battle is just the belief. that we
Yeah.
have that we can do it. I even think, and they actually have done some, there was a study, but it was kind of like because of a cancer medication that actually showed that ovaries were able to grow new eggs. Did you hear about that?
Actually, I haven't yet, but that doesn't surprise me at all
Yeah.
because of the stem cells being in the,
Yes.
they hang out at the edge of the ovary just inside it. And sure.
Yeah, totally. So I'm like, it's funny because you get all these numbers. Well, the AMH goes up and down. I mean, it
Yes.
changes, so it has gone up. I've seen it.
Yes.
And all of that. So I think that we just kind of like, we're so, I think as a society, or at least in Western medicine to some extent, like they're so into the studies and what has been seen thus far, which
Hmm.
is great. It
Yeah.
has its purpose for sure.
Yes.
However, that's not all the total of reality.
Yeah.
And we can get very laser focused and pigeonholed into
Yes.
one perspective. And
Mhm.
and then we're from that place teaching people coming in about their bodies from that perspective. And then, you're kind of cutting off that belief and the
Yes.
possibilities. And I love that you always talk about the mind
Yep.
and that affecting your body. I mean, it
Yeah.
can affect us in every way. When we're
Absolutely.
watching the news,
Oh,
we're
yes.
seeing all the things that are happening there. I have to take a fast from that because it's just,
Yes.
as much as I know and I'm aware of it, I have to take a fast from it because it can really influence your mind and your
Oh, it
body.
absolutely can. And we
Yeah,
have to remember that we have all grown up with programming and stories and other people's beliefs and other people's fears
yeah,
and other people's assumptions. And that, yes, conventional medicine, Western medicine, is algorithm based. It's this step, then this step, then this step. And it's putting, do you fall in this category, this category, this category? And then if it's category A, you go treatment A. And you try this 3 or 4 times. And if it's unsuccessful, then you go to treatment B.
mhm,
And it is missing the whole person aspect. And that means it's missing opportunities for people to increase their chances of success the first time with IVF, or for many people, to not even need IVF at all.
right.
And yet, because it's the gold standard from a technological standpoint, we put it on a pedestal, and we kind of take ourselves down. Oh, I can't get pregnant, but I have to do IVF. And for some people, it's true, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with using IVF to have your
Mhm.
baby
Yeah,
whatsoever. I just want people to not go into the fertility funnel without some other supports in place that are going to get them out of the funnel faster, more efficiently, and more happy,
yeah,
and less depleted financially, emotionally, physically
yeah.
by the time that they're pregnant and they're bringing a new life into the world and starting their life as a family, as a mama.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100% because like energy is energy and it doesn't matter. You can gain energy from food, but you also get it. You either get it from emotions or it depletes you from emotions and stress. I mean, you really feel like depleted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very costly from that energy perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And we know that people can stop their period from like severe stress, emotional stress or physical stress. So if that's the case, it's obviously a factor
Yeah.
on
Yeah, that
fertility.
happened to me. I had 3 years of no periods when I was in my 20s
Hmm.
after an emotional stress. It was a breakup with a guy.
Wow. Look at that. No, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, no, I used to have I had my periods were all over the place and I finally after many years got regular after going to an acupuncturist, but I did remember like if I had moments of stress or like months of stress, it wouldn't come as fast. It was much more regular, but it was still like I can feel the difference. It was like my body was holding on to it. It
Uh-huh.
just wasn't letting things move.
Uh-huh. Well, and in a way, we can thank our bodies for their intelligence in responding to what
Yeah,
they're perceiving to be a stressful or dangerous or threatening environment out there.
exactly.
Because what is more vulnerable than just being in that stressful environment, being pregnant in that environment,
Yep.
or having a newborn?
Yes.
So if we,
Absolutely.
if we're under chronic stress and we can't run away or fight for our life, or there aren't enough nutrients to go around and feed the family or feed the
Right.
tribe and so on, then it makes sense for our bodies to hold back and not show up with our maximum fertility, and become more vulnerable inside of a stressful scenario.
Absolutely. And a lot of times people will always say, well, people get pregnant during war, but it's not, it's a very different, if you have an individual body that responds differently, everybody is so different.
Yeah.
And very
Yeah.
few people come in with like the genetics of gold, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And also, when women come into your practice, what are the challenges that you see them facing?
I think more and more, the first thing that women will say is that they they've either been presented with IVF as the next step, or they've done a few rounds of IVF and they haven't been happy with how they felt, or how they felt in relation to the medications or the protocol that were chosen, or even the medical team that was involved.
Hmm.
And they felt like something was missing, and they don't even necessarily know why they're going
Yeah.
through IVF. Why would they need that for something that, again, should be so easy, natural? And they're looking to help them find that missing piece, which is what we call assessment. Like, most people have never had a comprehensive assessment the way that I look at their
Hmm.
fertility, and we can always find pieces of the puzzle, even from a lab or blood work perspective, that have not been looked at for them, that are meaningful to their fertility picture. But also, they're looking for that emotional support. They're looking to be seen and heard,
Yeah.
and they're bringing that individual self to their journey. So that could be something emotional, that could be something traumatic, belief based. They want that personalized feeling, and someone to they want to feel like someone's actually seeing and hearing her,
Yeah.
who she is and what's important to her and what are her values through this process. And they want to step out of that funnel, so to speak, like try IUI 6 times. If it's not successful, then you try IVF 4 times. If it's not successful, it's just this gamut. And it's
Yeah.
like that, having a 30% chance of taking home a baby after that, to me, is not good enough. We
Yeah.
have to be doing better for people. I want them going in with a much higher chance of success the first time, or like the new first time.
Yeah.
So taking a break, investing in their health, finding
True.
out
Yeah.
what are really the dynamics happening between both partners in their physical, mental, emotional health, that are contributing to them having subfertility,
Hmm.
and then taking the time it takes to optimize that and to start to see some measurable changes. I think that people are looking for essentially an individualized approach where they feel valued and they
Yeah.
feel heard.
Totally. Totally. And a lot of times people are under such stress, they think that 3 months is a make it or break it,
Yep.
because that's what they're told at the clinic.
Yes.
And it's quite the opposite, I'm sure like, because you
Yes.
need you need time to really
Yeah.
nourish those, the eggs, and then
Yeah.
allow them to mature and absorb their environment, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's much more worth it to wait a few months
Yeah.
than to rush into something
Yeah.
depleted.
Yeah. And so some people, they want to take a break, but you're right, that is a smaller proportion.
Hmm.
What I suggest is to think of it as not even taking a break or waiting. We're not waiting. We're actively working
Right.
towards successful results, right?
Exactly. That's a
Um,
great
and
way to put it.
and I'm sure you've seen that time and again in your practice, where they have these like negative results for even years at a time. You do the work together, you find out what's really there causing their disharmony, you optimize the pieces that you identify that need that support, and
Hmm.
then they go back feeling healthier than they've ever felt in their lives,
Hmm.
and they get pregnant and they have the baby.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's ultimately that's best case scenario. Give it, give it
Yeah,
your all. And it's true. I love how you just put it
yeah,
that you're active. You're still active. You're not like putting it on hold.
mhm,
You're actually
yeah,
actively helping your body prepare.
that's
And
right.
something else that I think about that I don't hear often, I guess, outside is, a woman goes through a retrieval. They get so much estrogen and hormones like in their body that is not their natural, it's not what their bodies are naturally made to handle.
Yeah, yeah,
So what do you do afterwards? I actually try to help them, or I kind of mentioned, some liver detox or dandelion tea, something to kind of assimilate and help their body
yeah,
detoxify from that excess, especially the estrogen, because we know that it can cause all kinds of issues, but
yeah,
really to detox their body
yeah,
after that, and
yeah.
then pause and then continue.
Yeah, I like to see that there is a reestablishment of the harmony between the brain or the conductor of the symphony
Yeah.
and the downstream organs, so or ovaries, thyroid, adrenals.
Hmm.
So I want to see that harmony come on board. So that would look like, the couple of cycles following the treatment or even the removal of medications, because some people's bodies have the resilience or you have the genetic detoxification capacity
Hmm.
that it is cleared from the system more efficiently and others do not, and
Yeah.
sometimes we need to support systems like your liver, like you said,
Yeah.
the bowels.
The bowels. Yeah.
Yeah, just really simple, providing enough fiber, probiotics, rest, gentle movement, castor oil packs can be
Hmm.
valuable.
Yeah.
Gentleness, mentally and emotionally too. Finding that soft place to land, our bodies will know how to heal themselves and they can clear virtually any toxin, even synthetic ones like synthetic hormones that are used as medicine. Like your body can clear that if the systems of elimination um, are healthy and
Hmm.
if we are not too stressed.
Yeah.
So when we're stressed, all of that physiology is geared towards surviving whatever has shown up in our environment that appears to be dangerous.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And are there any tips that you would suggest to somebody who's trying to prepare for pregnancy and they just want to, it could be anything small that they could start doing today?
Mm. I think becoming aware of your own signs of fertility is so empowering. There was a study where women were given training. They were diagnosed with infertility. They had no male factor in the couples, and they were given fertility awareness training, so tracking symptoms and temperature. And within 8 months, they more than doubled their pregnancy rate with no other interventions. Um, it's
Wow.
also just an empowering thing to know when your body is fertile as a female, and um, and then and then starting to treat yourself as not someone who's struggling to get pregnant or even unworthy of getting pregnant or something's flawed about oneself, but someone who is the vessel for life and who is worthy of being nourished and being encircled or
Mm.
nested in safety, nourishment, abundance, love, joy, peace, and surrendering into that, at least for some moments, because honoring our own body is a very important step in, I feel, the journey into motherhood. Because when the baby's actually here, there's a really practical challenges.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I would love for women to have that investment made in their self-care, the attention that they're giving themselves.
Yeah.
um, and I want women to see themselves as the mother, as the giver of new life before they before it's the practical reality. I want them to embody that as the emotional and energetic reality.
I love that. It's like it's the complete, it's really the completion of us as women
Yes.
And I love that you embody that spirituality aspect, because it's one thing that with Chinese medicine that I loved is that they always consider the spirit of the
Hmm.
individual, and the spirit cannot be measured by any device. It really is, but you could feel it and see it when
Yeah.
you're with the person, and you
Yeah.
can feel it within yourself.
Yes. Yes. A way to know how, is your spirit kind of in congruence with your fertility goals is, do you feel well?
Yeah,
Do you feel well 90% of the time?
right.
Do you have joy? Do you have ease? Uh, do you have good sleep? Do
Yeah,
you, are you attracted to your partner? It's like,
right.
are you having some fun? Are you feeling like good about yourself? Um, and, going into your pregnancy feeling well is an extremely strong asset. And we correlated that anecdotally with people having success with IVF to natural pregnancy to just having a sense of themselves with and without the baby. We want to have our identity and our well-being intact, especially because we're going to be preparing to give everything of ourselves into this new life, and that's nature, but that you also you want that, you give that willingly.
Yeah,
um, so I just want to build up mothers, even before I want them to start to see themselves as mothers now.
yeah.
Hmm.
Totally. I think that people become mothers, or women become mothers before conception. I think it's like the
Yeah.
conception happens emotionally, spiritually,
Yep.
and that's the calling. And I always think that there's a calling for a reason. Whether,
Yeah.
however it turns out, it may not be the way exactly how you expected it to be, but I do believe that there's a calling for a reason. Something's calling you. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it could be anybody. It could be an embryo donor. It could be IVF. It
Yeah.
could be natural. It could be
Yeah.
any which way,
Yes.
adoption. But it is a calling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so much more important to keep that vision of the calling and not worry as much about the how.
Yeah,
Like not be attached to the pathway of getting there. It's that calling and that feeling that I want people to keep their eyes on.
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's so profound. And so for people who want to work with you and want to find out more about your book, how can they find
Mhm.
you?
Oh, well, my website is tworivershealth.ca. And I am also on Instagram at dr.elizabeth.cherevaty. And if you just search my name, it'll come up. Um, I extend an invitation to people that want to work with me or find out about how we would work together, what that would look like, and if it's a fit, to book in a conception confidence call with me. You can book that right into the schedule off my website. And maybe we can share the links if you have show notes for the episode today.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's a chance to get on the phone or a video chat and just see, where are you at, what are you looking for, and is it a fit to work together. I do work with clients globally through coaching and video consultation, and with patients in Ontario. So that's because my naturopathic doctor license is in Ontario only, but I have a coaching program, I have a digital course, as well as like patient care for Ontario residents. So all of those ways are available, and my book is available everywhere books are sold. So wherever you like to buy your books, if you like local bookstores, ask them to order it in for you. If you like to order them online, then it's there too. IVF Meal Plan is the book.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. It was such a pleasure having you. This is a great conversation, and I appreciate you coming on today.
My pleasure, Michelle. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you.
Awesome.